It's interesting. You mentioned the word anarchy. What is it that stops anarchy becoming like a criminal mafia run state? I mean, why do people try to combine them both? Because I've seen countries where there's lawlessness and it's not funny, especially if you get on the wrong side of people. And if there's no law to protect you, then you don't want any anarchy at all. You want safety and security, which is the foundation of the pyramid of happiness.
Absolutely. So I think it's when we talk about anarchy, I think it's very good to define what it actually means. I feel that the common understanding of what anarchy is incorrect, because to me, what anarchy is not lack of order or lack of rules, it's lack of rulers. So anarchy doesn't mean a disorder, it means spontaneous order. So the idea is, imagine we come into a room which is full of chairs, randomly spread out, and you ask people to everybody take a chair, sit down. What happens? Everybody chooses a chair that suits his or her needs, or comes to a compromise with everybody else, and everybody sits down kind of peacefully. People don't start fighting over the chairs. So to me, anarchy is really it's a logical conclusion of being a libertarian. Because what is libertarianism? It boils down to a simple principle from which everything else is derived, which is the principle of non-violence, non-aggression. So if this is the foremost principle that you want to uphold, you basically run into a problem if you want to enforce different principles on people, because at that point you have to force them to follow whatever the principles they are that you want to enforce. So, and if you don't do it, then you end up in the state of anarchy. And I don't think anarchy is something which is achievable, but I think that it is good, and it's a goal, in the direction of which we should be striving, even though I don't think it will ever actually happen. And on the other side of it is totalitarianism. So I think this is the spectrum. On one side, you've got complete freedom, and it's anarchy, and on the other side, you've got complete lack of freedom, which is totalitarianism. Mm-hmm. And we are moving in a certain direction, or we want to be moving. We should have a goal in mind in which direction we should be going. And to me, it is the maximization of freedom.
So who, in this sort of vacuum of power with, say, libertarianism / anarchy, mm-hmm. who is there to enforce the laws and stop malefactors gaining power?
So I think that in such a situation, we would end up with kind of private security organizations which are enforcing the laws. And I do think that there would have to be a level of opt-in into what we all accept as laws governing society. And those laws would be enforced by kind of private security organizations, or maybe even not private. Police, I think, could well be public. But as you say, safety and security is very fundamental to the functioning of society. And this is the most important good to provide. But it is a good, it is a service. And like any other service, it can be provided through free market competition rather than through centralized authority. don't really see safety and security as being separate from I don't know, healthcare or education or any kind of service that you might want.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as we were both young men, the idea of libertarianism, it sounds appealing. And the thing is that you've potentially, there's quite a lot of risk there. There's a lot of unknowns. You're sort of depending on the market to provide security. And there are situations where this seems to have worked with, for example, in Mexico, where the autodefensias. Mm-hmm. However, if you look at a lot of places in Africa where sort of there is anarchy, it's sort of things seem to revolve around tribes and mobs and warlords. So if we were to transition to that in a European country or even the UK, what steps would you put in place to protect our liberties as little as we have at the moment?
Yeah, I can't say I have it all figured out. I think that focusing on anarchy as such as the end goal is quite a big mental exercise. And I remember us going to anarchy meetups in London, where we would meet every couple of weeks, first having read some sort of paper on the subject and then discussing it. And, you know, it's a big topic, and I don't have it all figured out. But as I said, I think, first of all, I don't think we would ever get to that state, and there are many other wins on the way that we can take to bring more freedom and liberty to the people.
Yeah.
And I think this sort of security provision, if you like, is the final step. Once we've achieved all the other goals, we can think about trying to tackle that.
The thing that annoys me, though, is that we have a lot of people talking about anarchy, but they've never lived in a country with anarchy. They've never lived in a place where they have to have private security for defenses. It's all a lot of privileged people that are coming out with these anarchist statements. That you're not. I mean, I see you as a libertarian. I'm not putting you in that category. So if people want to come and saying, let's talk about anarchy, why don't you go live in a country where there is no rule of law? That's just, you have the defense, private security, then come and teach us about anarchy, because I think people just they're not really freedom anarchy people. They're more just like, it sounds cool, but until you've lived in a situation where there can be self-organizing mobs, you know, good and bad, then who are you to basically promote anarchy?
Yeah, I think again it comes to the understanding of anarchy, and I re-emphasize that anarchy is not synonymous with chaos and self-ruling mobs. It's having rule of law and voluntarily opting out to the organizations which would be enforcing that law. And I think that it might very well be that we decide that the enforcement and law and the judicial system is best organized by an organization that we already know, which is called the state. So it's not necessarily opposed.